Federalist 85, Part 4. We'll start at paragraph 10. Before I continue, just want to make sure that the books I have recommended to you, I think, will help you quite a bit in reading these papers. For example, here he quotes David Hume. When you look at books, some of the books that I've recommended, you'll see his name come up over and over again. Look at Fame and the Founding Fathers and all those other books that I've recommended. So that's why I'm not going in depth explaining any of this, some of the stuff on some of these pages. It appears to me susceptible of absolute demonstration that it will be far more easy to obtain subsequent than previous amendments to the Constitution. One of the most important things for Hamilton and Madison, who were very active in getting this Constitution through, making sure the Federal Convention took place, making sure the Federalist Papers were written, all of this was, they did not want another convention to happen because they knew everything would just go to ruins. Then they'd have to find new people to go to this convention as delegates, and they would not agree on things, on and on and on. So it was very important for them not to let another convention take place. And a lot of anti-federalists were saying, let's either have a convention or let's get some amendments in the Constitution before you even send it to the states to be ratified. And they did not want that to happen. They said, okay, afterwards, after you ratify this Constitution, we'll make sure that it happens, because it's much easier then. The moment an alteration is made in the present plan, it becomes, to the purpose of adoption, a new one, and must undergo a new decision of each state. To its complete establishment throughout the Union, it will therefore require the concurrence of 13 states. If, on the contrary, the Constitution proposed should once be ratified by all the states as it stands, alterations it may at any time be effected by 9 states. Here then, the chances are as 13-9 in favor of the subsequent amendments rather than of the original adoption of an entire subsystem. So he actually, in a footnote, says it may rather be said 10, for 2/3 may set on foot the measure, 3/4 of the states must ratify it. So he says it's just better to adopt the Constitution now, and then later on all you need is 9 or 10 states to amend the Constitution. You don't need 13 states to amend the Constitution. This is not all. Every Constitution of the United States must inevitably consist of a great variety of particulars in which 13 independent states are to be accommodated in their interests or opinions of interest. We may, of course, expect to see in any body of men charged with its original formation very different combinations of the parts upon different points. Many of those who form the majority on one question may become the minority on a second, and an association dissimilar to either may constitute the majority on a third. Hence the necessity of molding and arranging all the particulars which are to compose the whole in such a manner as to satisfy all the parties to the compact. And hence also an immense multiplication of difficulties and casualties in obtaining the collective assent to a final act. The degree of that multiplication must evidently be in a ratio to the numbers of particulars and numbers of parties. So He says it will be immensely difficult if you don't ratify this now, because if we go to a new convention and you're going to have thousands of different people with different ideas, different interests, and you'll just never come to a compromise, especially when you're talking about 13 different states, 13 different cultures. But every amendment to the Constitution, if once established, would be a single proposition and might be brought forward singly. There would then be no necessity for management or compromise in relation to any other point. No giving nor taking. No giving nor taking. The will of the requisite number would at once bring the matter to a decisive issue. And consequently, whenever 9, or rather 10 states were united in the desire of a particular amendment, that amendment must infallibly take place. There can therefore be no comparison between the facility of effecting an amendment and that of establishing in the first instance a complete constitution. Luckily last year when I was beginning to translate the Federalist Papers, or I had actually started translating the Federalist Papers to Farsi the first time around, I came across this new book. At the time was a new release called The Framers' Coup, and it's by Michael Claremont, and it's a good book for you to look at. It's a pretty big book to read. He's got 2 or 3 talks. You can listen to those, and also its bibliography, it's pretty good. So you can kind of become familiar with a lot of books relevant to what we are talking about. And I think I better stop here and then finish the rest of it in the next video, because there will be a long paragraph and I think it's relevant that we go through the whole paragraph. So I'll stop here and we'll hope to finish Federalist 85 in part 5.